name is Jim Merrill. I'm the suspension development engineer for the Chevrolet Corvette. And that means I have the best job in the entire world. My grandfather ran moonshine. I'm not sure if you're born with a want to drive fast, but I look back on my childhood. I went to an IndyCar race, and when I came around the first lap, I looked at my mom and I said, I'm going to do that. And my dad looked at me and he said, no, you're going to college. A lot of the young guys ask me, how do I come up to do something like this? You know, hands-on experience, and you have to have a racing background. As we're coming into this really super tight turn, you know, we're going to go down to second gear. And you got to tell yourself patient, because the minute you start crowding the throttle too much, you're gonna screw up the entire lap. So you got to be able to tear in the cars. You got to understand every component, how they work together. These computers or controllers communicate with each other, and all that has to come together in harmony with each other. But there's always the human element. There is no computer that can sit between the steering wheel and the seat and make it all happen. I don't want to say tires are everything, but they're probably the biggest component of whether or not you're going to be a success. You could have a spectacular chassis, everything looks good on paper, you put a junk tire on the car, it's going to drive like junk. If you ever ask any professional driver, have you ever driven the perfect lap? The answer will be 100% of the time, no. No matter how good you drive it, there's always a little bit left on the table. I really like being the Chevrolet guy, walking into a shootout against cars that cost $150,000, $200,000, $250,000, and we're beating every one of them. Throughout my career at General Motors, I've been in and out of a lot of people's offices, president, vice president. This office is the best.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. It's time now for our Sunday Coffee with Conti episode right here on our Corvette-only YouTube channel. Now, you see the length of this vlog. If you don't have an opportunity to watch it in its entirety, please come back and check it out. I just know that you're going to love the conversation that we have with retired ride and handling engineer Jim Merrill. All right, guys, this is a moment that I've been waiting for. Many of you on the channel have been waiting for. You may not know who this guy is because you always see him when he's on the track with a helmet on. This is the guy behind the helmet. This is Jim Merrill. Jim, good to meet you.
Thank you for having me. And I always say the helmet's my best.
What's the official title? I don't know. I know you're retired from General Motors, yeah. But what was the official title with Chevrolet?
Vehicle Dynamics Engineer, responsible for ride and handling on the Corvette.
Okay.
From 2004 to 2018.
All right. And he, you know, you guys have seen the videos that he's been in, driving the car, testing the car. He's working when he's doing that. But one of the videos that'll be playing through the conversation Jim and I are having right now, I go right to the ZR1 Nuremberg and the C6 ZR1. And man, I'll tell you what, I watched that video I don't know how many times. And I don't know what turn it was, but you were doing about a $182. And you didn't do this with the steering wheel. You were turning left and you were going downhill, and you make the wrong move in that turn, and it's game over when that car, I mean, man, that just amazed me. I'm like, and I remember watching it back in the day. We're waiting for ZR1 to come out, and I'm like, what to my buddy? I go, did you see that? He just turned left going 180 miles. This car's unbelievable. And I was watching your hands and how fast they moved, but yet how stable they were in that car. I mean, what a great time that was.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story about that particular turn. It's called...
You know which one I'm talking about.
Tiergarten. It's almost at the end of the lap. And for 2 weeks, I never lifted there. I mean, it's wide open, flat. And then we talked about staying hyper-focused, and when I came through and got onto the straightaway, I kind of let my mind wander a bit. I had a pretty good idea we were going to be the first car in our 720. And I turned in too early, and I had to blip the throttle. That was a half a second.
No kidding.
Yeah, if you look at the video, I have to come off and go back on. First time in 2 weeks that I had to lift for that turn.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't think too much of it until my data guy came over and said that was a half a second.
No kidding. I know there's a couple of times you were in some of the apexes, and I thought you got like a lot of apex because you swallowed it whole, and I saw the hands going crazy, but you just kept moving.
Yeah, you kind of go to a different place when you run for time. It's I don't know how to explain it. It's you go somewhere else. It's not running a lab like anything else.
Well, for the training that I've had through Chevrolet, and I've been to so many different tracks, I always give a lot of credit to the folks at the Ron Fellow School, Spring Mountain. The first thing they tell you before you even get behind the wheel, and you're alluding to that your mind is really got to be focused on the car, the track. Don't be thinking about anything else. You've got to be 100%.
You got to be hyper focused.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. So we're talking about scare, and that really where I wanted to go at the beginning of this. But I'm just happy just to be talking to Jim, and there's a few things that we're going to dive into. But talking about being scared on the track. I mean, I'll use the Ron Fellow School as an example. And you folks that have been there know exactly what I'm talking about. When you get done with your 2-3 day session, you're like, yeah, I can do this. And then you do the hot lap with the trainer. And you're like, okay, I'm horrible. And I watch your thing of the nerve. There's no way I could do that. So not thinking when you started driving, but from your professional career, was there ever a moment that, besides what we're talking about where you lost a half a second, but is there a moment that you really felt nervous or you felt scared in a performance situation?
Never scared.
Okay.
Nervous because, like, when, GM spends a lot of money for us to go to the Nürburgring, and it's, we always emphasize that it's, the fast lap is a byproduct of everything you do before that, and it's developing the vehicle, so when Sport Auto drives a car, it performs well. But when it comes down, and up until the C7 ZR1, it was you get one lap per time. And it wasn't, it was when you, I'm not scared. I mean, if you're scared at the Nürburgring, just leave. It's not. But it was, when you're sitting in the paddock, getting ready to go, and the weight of the world is on your shoulders. I remember when I went with the ZR1, Tash said, we've already recorded all the videos. Like when he would do the voiceover, that was all done. I'm like, why'd you tell me that? It's like, I don't need that too. But it's just, but once, once you get going and you start putting some heat in the tires, and then you just gotta, I have to talk to myself. It's things I don't go through my mind during a development lap or just during industry pool because there's so much traffic. You're just trying to negotiate the track. It says, as I come up to a turn, I am rehearsing that turn, not to get too far ahead of myself because that's another big mistake. But what you're going to do, where you're going to pick up the throttle, where you're going to be wide open, where your line is, because there's some idiosyncrasies on the ring that you got to, it's like, here's the typical line, but if you go out here, there's a little bit of banking, a little bit more grip. So
that's a tough track.
It's there's nothing like it in the world.
Right.
And so it was the nerves of just the expectations were over the top.
Yeah.
But once you get going, it just goes away, and then you just super hyper focused on hitting your marks.
Well, we were talking outside. You were talking with some of the guys, and we'll tell you what he was doing here today, as we teased about in some previous videos. And it's neat to see you mingle with the customers and current Corvette owners. You were telling the guys that when you get into the car, you may be very familiar with the track, but the situation like the ZR1 ring time that we're referencing a lot, that's kind of the famous lap for you, but that the cameras are on. All of a sudden everything changes. You kind of tense up just a little bit different, and it's hard to stay focused because the cameras are going.
Right, yeah, it's not tensing up, it's just as, if your expectations are it's just another lap,
right?
That's completely wrong. It's even when you're on that front straightaway and you go down turn one and it hits you, and it's like subconscious. You just everything's different, and that's when like I say, you have to stay hyper focused. You have to. You can't get out of the moment. You have to stay in the moment.
You're in go mode.
Easy. You're in go mode. And it's like nothing you've ever experienced before, even if you had, 1,000 laps. If you didn't run for an official time, it's all different. And I try to tell the new guys coming up, I said, you think it's just another lap, but it's not. It's going to be
pressure.
It's a lot more pressure.
Yeah. All the laps that you've done, different tracks, Is there any track that you really enjoy driving the most?
Well, besides the Nürburgring,
Yeah.
Virginia International Raceway. There's
Really,
no question
VIR?
about it. Yeah, it's got a little bit of everything. It's got, like I always tell people, those high-speed S's are just how big are your, you know what. But the 5 turns leading up to the high-speed S's is finesse. You can't manhandle or you can't brute force the car. It's finessing the car through those turns in order to maintain your momentum.
Right.
To get a shot at the high-speed S's. It's got super high straightaways. I think in the C7 ZR1 we were doing 174, 175 on the back straightaway. Super hard braking, and then you come down the roller coaster. That's kind of in between of running hard but finessing the car down. So it's got a little bit of everything, and it's just a spectacular track.
Oh man! Well, I've told you guys many times over, when you buy a new car from me, please try and take your ownership experience to another level, to tracking stuff that Jim has done and still doing for a living, and that's at the Ron Fellows Spring Mountain School. And many times I've told this story to you guys too. The first time I ever went was for the C6 ZR1.
Mm-hmm.
Drove out there, had a great time. It was a Chevrolet sponsored event. They picked me up, drove me from Vegas to the thing, drive for 3 days, take me back to the thing in Vegas. I fly back to Cleveland. So it's 4 or 5 days before I'm back in a civilian car. And I called Rick Malone, and he goes, "Hey, what'd you think of the course?" I said, "Wow, you guys are fantastic. I learned so much." I said, "But there's a huge problem. You really screwed something up." He goes, "What do we do?" And I said, "Well, what you did was you didn't teach me how to drive like a civilian, because I was not disconnected from the track. I got into my Suburban leaving the Cleveland airport. I started driving like an idiot. And it's just like I was still in go mode.
Right.
It was crazy." So for what you do at a much higher level than any of us would ever do, how do you disconnect and go from the track to traffic?
People, it's one of the most common questions they ask my wife. How does he drive? and I blow them away. 6 miles an hour, cruise control on, listen to a podcast, listen to music. Yeah. I am pretty mundane on the public road.
Okay.
It's because I've gotten so much track time. I've got,
Sure.
I think I'm at 35,000 laps. And close to where we're at are some of the best roads in the country.
Okay.
South of Caldwell, Ohio. And the Autobahn, I mean, when you get to do 214 miles an hour on a highway,
right.
It's like, oh wow, I'm going 95 here. No, there's no reason to get that crazy. On and
Right.
off ramps, that's a different story. But other than that, I just do not get a ticket. So
I know what you mean about on and off ramps. My wife
Yeah.
gets mad at me. She goes, "You got to drive every vehicle like a Corvette?" And I said, "Sorry, it's the on ramp. It's kind of that thing."
If there's a place you do it, that's where you do it.
Right, absolutely. There's a couple of shots that you've had, and I think this was at the ring, where all 4 tires were off the ground, man.
Yeah.
What the heck is that like? You're flying, dude. Literally flying.
The beauty of Magnetic Ride is that it was before they call it Flugplatz. It's a reference to flyover or something like that. But before the GTR, there was a GTR in a race that went into the crowd there, and it's kind of like he went too fast, and
Right.
and even though and before they made the radius a lot bigger coming up that hill, and if you just come up fast enough, you will go into the crowd again.
Oh, boy.
But before they did that, it was a sharper edge, and especially in the C6, all the C6s, and then the C7 Z51 before it was hang time. It was pretty cool. But the car would get up, and then it would just squat, and you just.
Yeah, that's the picture I'm
Wide
talking
open,
about. You were
yeah.
you were in the blue Z51.
Yeah, it was just
dude, you hadn't been that far
no,
off
it was,
the ground.
it was good, but you just car lands. It doesn't oscillate, just lands, and away you go.
Yeah, there's a tribute to the great frame structure in the car.
Frame structure and magnetic ride.
So you've been in a lot of different Corvettes. Do you have a favorite Corvette per se?
Oh yeah, no question. C7 ZR1.
No kidding.
Yeah, even though we didn't, we had a conversation before. Even though we didn't, achieve our objective, I think a lot of people now understand the story. That car it's kind of like everything I've learned over 30 years in 15 on Corvette all came together in that car, and it's no question it's a sub-7 car, guarantee it. Mm-hmm. It's a great daily driver.
Yes.
Tourist sport,
Mm-hmm.
it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It does it well.
Yes.
And on the track, it's a beast, and it's just, all you do is flip the switch.
Now, is there a reason that we didn't, and I may not be privy to that story, but is there a reason we never got, I know we got segmented times, but
Yeah.
we never got a full
Oh.
Jim Merrow lap time in there?
Well, we got full times. We got full times on all the C7s, actually.
Okay,
And the ZR1, we've gone, Road and Track had a really good article. I wanted to, elaborate more on the circumstances that led up to the 704, but they were limited to 1,700 words. And they did a great job portraying it, but it was that day, we were, just on that day, in traffic, we were segmenting 702, just an 8 laps.
right.
And I did a 706 with traffic, and the segment time for just a little over a week was 6:57.
Wow.
And I always hit the segments. When the industry pool segments, I never missed them. And then an hour before we were to run, they told us you wouldn't get a warm-up lap.
I know you got to deal with some local issues and traffic and actual having clear track time.
Yeah, they were. They had this 2-hour slot for all the manufacturers to run for time. And there was a bunch of cars on the track at once. Although we didn't know, they spaced us out, which kind of hurt me because the little heat I did get into the tires, which was like 120 degrees, which you would get going next door for a 6-pack.
Right.
Was gone. I had 9/10 of a mile and 3 turns before I started the lap, and I knew, I could. The thing I do watch is the tire pressures, and we went out 26 psi cold, and I think they might have been 26, just a bit higher.
Wow.
And I knew, but I kind of held on to it for as long as I could, and heat does get into the tires. The problem is when I call it shock 'em or sledgehammer heat into the tires. Instead of just bringing them up with normal loading, and now you're bringing them up with high slip angles. You just, understeering, oversteering, and just creating these huge slip angles and generating heat that way. It's inefficient. It doesn't bring the tire up the way it wants to be brought up. And
Right.
so, the car that was a rock star an hour before was just, it was barely drivable, but I didn't quit, man. I went after it, and it was one of the best laps I've ever done.
No kidding.
Yeah.
ZR1. See, I
Yeah.
told you guys that car was a monster and it was a rock star. We're talking with Jim Merrow, retired engineer from General Motors, and it's not like he became Johnny Carson and disappeared. He's still now, not with the helmet on, not behind the scenes, he's in front of you guys. And you're just coming off your first Corvettes of Carlisle event, and it's neat to see that you're not hiding in the woods fishing, which is fine to do once in a while, but you're still out there, man. So how was that experience at Corvettes of Carlisle?
Unbelievable. It was. I've never been there. I've always wanted to go, but we with amount of work and boating, we're at the boats.
Okay.
August was a tough time.
Yeah.
Until we started the business, and we were invited by the guys there to come and do a couple of seminars and update some cars, and we didn't know what to expect, and we were completely blown away. First of all, by the number of cars. Second of all, how cool everybody is, super friendly, willing to talk to you, stopping by, and say, I don't have a C6, but, tell me about this. And, I just love talking to all the community is so tight. Everybody gets along, just great people, man.
Yeah.
Every day we met.
It's instant family, man.
Instant family. I agree
It
100%.
really is. So you're still active within the Corvette community. What we've been doing today, a couple of guys were out front, and you may have saw some of the earlier footage. You were doing a reflash of the C6 magnetic ride control. So what exactly were you doing for those guys?
Well, we'll step back to the C7 ZR1.
Okay.
When I said that, that's where it all came together. Even everything we had implemented up with magnetic ride. A few years, like maybe 2017, I decided to strip it because there's so many ways to attack it. I decided to strip it down and build it back up with way to myself that made more sense. And it all came together with the C7 ZR1. And it was so good. It was such an improvement. Like when I would go drive a Z06 versus a ZR1, I said, I got to retune the Z06s. I retuned everything back to Z51 for 2019, and all those calibrations were released. After that, I talked to the director of SPO. I said, you know what? It's such a big improvement that there's no reason we can't make this available to anybody who owns a C7. It's just a reprogramming, and they put a team together and they did it. So anybody who has a 2014, if you have a 2014 Z51 and you want the 2019 Cal, you bring it to a Chevy dealership and they can put it in there for you. So I retired, and then I started thinking, well, what about the C6 guys? You know, the calibrations I'm tuning, I'm replacing what I tuned 12 years ago. And I remember, you know, it's like any process. The more you do it, the better you get.
Sure.
And then with that, you know, and it was always getting better. But then, you know, the tail of that curve came up when I did the 2019 cars. So I went out and bought a Grand Sport and started messing with it. And I'm like, holy crap, this is, you know, if the C7 came up here, the C6, you know, was down here because, over the life of the C6, and then you jump to C7, things get better.
Right.
So the amount of improvement that car had was bigger than what the C7s had, or close to it. And so we just decided to embark on this little adventure, trying to upgrade cars, and so far we've been, real fortunate. Everybody's been happy. I offer a full money back. This says zero risk to you. You can, and I actually tried to get GM to do that, and they wouldn't with the C7s. No one's gonna bring the car back, and
Right.
And unless the flash got messed up, which I'm sure has happened.
Yeah.
But I offer running back guarantee, and so far, of all the cars we flash, haven't had one disappointed customer.
Well, I saw at Carlisle, one of the guys, Jason in Maryland, you remember the Supersonic ZR1 I think he just did?
Yeah.
He's already posting rave reviews and how much of a difference it makes, and it is instantaneous. I mean,
Yep.
a lot of you guys that have had the upgrade, and I recommended it a long time ago because I felt the difference in the calibrations of the 19. And it took me a minute when I'm driving, I'm like, wait a minute. I was going over a freeway, and I'm like, wait a minute, this feels really good. I'm like, hey, this is a real deal. And you guys did the upgrade. You were telling me, yeah, wow, what a huge difference. But I think of the C6s you were doing today, I noticed that you were asking the guys what they were going to do with the car. So you actually could kind of customize that sport mode for them,
Right,
to
yeah.
the way that they're going to drive it.
Yeah, well, I've done a new sport, which is like the C7 Touring Sport, because the C6 was tuned Tour Track. It says Touring Sport, but that sport mode is a track mode.
Okay.
And we had to have something in there for the track guys.
Sure.
So, I realize that 95% of people don't track their car. So I said I want to give them a tour and sport that that I tuned it exactly the way I tuned the C7's Tour and Sport. But then, because I can't have access to all these cars on a racetrack, but I also know there's a lot of guys out there who like the car tied down just because they like the car tied down. So I decided to do a super sport mode, which is like a 30% bump in global damping from sport. So that you can do a tour in the super sport mode. And the more I thought about it, some of the guys, can I use this on the track? And I got a couple of guys who are going to try it, because I'll digress a second back to the C7 ZR1. We were at Willow Springs with the C7 ZR1, and I was running just tanks of fuel. I mean, we were running an endurance test and all day long, and I finally, I said, I'm going to run this tank in sport. Just see what it's like, and it was pretty good. It wasn't as good as track, but it was pretty good. And so, so now I'm digressing. I'm saying, and I tell them, I said, I think super sport, because super sport is, it's what sport is what I would have done in the C7.
Okay.
Super sport's a bump up from that. And so we have a couple of guys out there. I'm not saying this is the track mode, but I'm saying, based on your, how good of a driver you are, this may suit your needs, and it's a great street mode. Even in super sport car, the impacts are better, the isolation, the car is more balanced. So there's quite a few guys. Actually, Matt here did a tour of super sport. So
Yeah, I heard him talking about that.
yeah, he's pretty
That's
excited
pretty
about
cool.
it, yeah.
Oh, that's just neat. So you've got a Facebook page. What is your Facebook page?
It's Jim Merrill Vehicle Dynamics LLC.
Okay, and are you on Instagram or any of that kind of stuff?
No, I got a website.
Okay, what's the website?
JimMerrill.com.
Perfect.
And if anyone wants to get a hold of me, I'm Jim at JimMerrill.com.
Oh, you gotta like that.
And give a shout out to my buddy Cyril Pappy, who did I was going to try to do the website myself, and this guy stepped up. Just met him through Facebook. This is how good the Corvette community is. I have never done Facebook before. I started this in April. And
I know. I just saw you all of a sudden popped out and said, "Hey, look, Jim's on Facebook. This is great."
and I people, you got to go Facebook, you got to go social media, and I think one of my first posts was, "Bear with me, I'm not sure I know what I'm doing," and that's all I had to say. And the Corvette community came out of the woodwork guiding me through this phenomena that I've never experienced before, and teaching me how to market it, and there's the guy named Ross from Wisconsin has been helping with the marketing. Guys out in California, Salim, he's got a YouTube channel too, and then Cyril came up and said, "No, you're not doing your own website. Let me do it for you." So it was great. Yeah, typical Corvette people, man. They're awesome.
You're going to continue to travel around and do this C6 reflash? Any other places that people can see you going forward? I know you're planning to go to the Caravan right now.
Yeah, I think we got interest all over the country, and I'm trying to figure out the logistics on how we're going to satisfy. We want to get everybody with this calibration, because I know once we get some traction all over the country, then I think it'll kind of snowball. I think there's two options. One's immediate, maybe one's down the road, and we're talking about doing a lap of America. We like a road trip, and
that's cool.
And maybe right after the first of the year, and just getting everybody who wants the upgrade and is figuring out okay, what major metropolitan areas I got to go to, and kind of have everybody come up.
Right.
And then long term, I can't do that all the time. So long term, I'm thinking about getting a network of just installers. Somebody who can install the controller, because I can flash the controller from home.
Okay.
Send it to an installer, and it's less than an hour of labor. So if we're going to do a trip, and then another year we'll do another one, and you want it now, it's just it'll be the same price, and then probably $120, $130 to have somebody put it in for you.
Sure.
So you
Absolutely.
can have it. So it's just the Carlisle and the Caravan have just been consuming all my time. I haven't even had time to try to get this network together, but we're thinking long term, and
That's cool.
see what happens.
All right, now, and of course, in the last part of the conversation, like, you haven't said anything about C8. I am. Hang on a second. All right, so let's talk about C8 Corvette. He's like, here it comes. Easy, loose, having fun, man.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, how much of the C8 were you involved in before you retired?
Very little. You probably saw me get kicked around pretty hard based on a podcast that I did. And when I typed my response, and basically was just stating that, early on, I was part of a group of people who drove. This is before there was, I don't know, I'm not sure the lines on paper. I mean, it was very early on, and we wanted to get a taste of what's out there, and we did this whole round robin of what was considered the best mid-engine cars, and my opinion from walking away from that, and it was just a racetrack and public roads was I think we have to out-engineer them. That's the way I felt, but if the timing of the C8 and the C7 ZR1 was pretty close. So
yes.
You can't do both cars, and no one was taking the ZR1 from me. So I and I knew I was going to retire. I knew so there was no reason for me to get in the middle of the C8, but the engineers, I know all of them. They're awesome. They're a great group of guys, super smart, and I watched the videos of since they've revealed it, and I think that they out-engineered the competition. I think this car is going to be I think it'll be better than the C7.
You never got a chance to drive that.
Never had a chance to drive it. Now I got to start kissing some butts, see who get it. But no, there's no question in my mind that it will. I mean, if you don't outperform the car you're replacing, then you go out of business.
Sure.
And I have no doubt that the team did a great job in the C8, and they'll continue to do so, and it'll be, it'll meet expectations.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Just as I pick up more and more and more stuff, and I love hearing Taj talk about the car because he makes it so human and so relatable. And it really is incredible how far that car's come. And like he said, just this past weekend at Carlisle, they're not even doing retail cars yet. These are still experimental cars.
Right.
And has exceeded all their expectations. So, we're in for a real bright future for Corvette. Now,
no question about it.
Speaking of future, who took your position at Chevrolet?
I would.
Is there one guy, or they got a team?
No,
of guys
I have three guys.
Okay, so three guys replaced you.
But I got to pick two of them.
Okay.
It was early on, but out of respect for, I'm going to let the platform I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to step out of bounds here. I'm going to stay in my lane.
Absolutely.
And I'm
No,
sure
that's
that
fine.
when names, I think it's up to Taj and Harlan, and
Okay.
if they want to, it's when they want to present the team, I'm sure that they'll do it.
All right, then let me ask you this then. Are you a better driver than them?
No, they got.
Oh, come on. I was waiting for Jim to say, oh, yeah.
No, these guys are super fast. They got,
Yeah.
the guys, there's guys who come up and kind of get trained on the job who end up being really fast, and there's guys who come up who've raced cars, and we have several of them working on the Corvette right now, who were super fast before they started working on Corvette. I have no question that they'll take it, that as far as, engineers and lap times, nothing's lost.
Wow, that's great. All right, one last thing, and then we're gonna have Jim sign some posters that you guys have an opportunity to win on the channel, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
My pleasure.
This is just a blast talking with you.
Sure.
And you referenced it earlier, and I've talked about it a lot on my channel, that people are buying this Corvette. It is a sports car in its truest sense, but the bulk of the people buying the car are not race car drivers.
Right.
So what would you say to the client that's watching right now that gets that car, they get caught up in the moment, watching your videos, and okay, I'm going to do this little track thing, but to the novice, to the guy that's just going to do a weekend track thing, what would you suggest to them? What would be good advice for them getting started? And they're not going to do it in a competition level, or
Right.
certainly at the level that you've done.
No, if you're a novice, and you're wherever you go, there's going to be an instructor.
Okay.
And to go out on a racetrack without an instructor's guidance is foolish. It's like you can play video games. When you get in and you start feeling things, and if you're just, you'll be kind of floundering around by yourself. You sit next to an instructor and let him take some laps. Let him sit next to you, take some laps. The learning curve will be exponential. You will learn so much faster than if you just go out and try to figure it out on your own. So I mean, and then if you as you go, that's for the novice, and you
Sure.
kind of get up and then you start talking about data and
Right.
maybe tweaking the car to your driving style. But to the pure novice, to just so if there's somebody willing to help you, let them help you.
Great advice. Great advice.
My pleasure.
Wonderful talking to you, Jim.
Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic.
I really appreciate it.
Well, I'll definitely be seeing you at some Corvette events because I travel the country too.
Great.
And thank you for all the hard work that you've done and the great successes that you've provided for Corvette. I think it's just incredible. And being able to talk to you now after watching these videos for so long, this is a
I
thrill
feel
for
the
me,
same way
guys.
about you.
Oh, come on.
got
No, not at all.
All
Not
those
at all.
YouTube videos,
No,
all
this
those
is
YouTube
fantastic.
listeners. But it's just it's I thought I'd be out of it, but it's Corvette community just you kind of want to stay in it, and every time Terry and I do something, the caravan and soon to be at Carlisle, it's just you make more friends and
Sure.
you want to stay in it. So it's
Well, it becomes a true way of life.
Yeah,
it's a way of
absolutely.
life, you bet.
No
That's
question about
fantastic. Well, guys, how about that conversation? I want to thank Matt Dillon for helping set that up for us. I also want to thank Jim and his wife for taking time as they were traveling from Carlisle, going to the 25th celebration of the National Corvette Museum to sit down and talk with us. I'm so excited I had the opportunity to share that with you guys right here in the vlog. What I wish I really could have shared was the hour conversation we had after the camera turned off. Great stories, saw some stuff that maybe people will never see. Jim, thanks for that. I guess I can sum up the entire interview with something Jim said to me just before we left him that afternoon. He says, even though I'm retired, he goes, I still consider myself an ambassador for Corvette. Yes, sir, you certainly are. Thank you again, Jim. It was truly an honor to sit with you. And of course, his favorite car is his one that he just put his heart and soul into. Every little tweak he possibly could is, yes, the ZR1. Have a great day, everyone.